Good morning. Welcome to the Flow In, Flow Out podcast. My name is Samnang Man, and I am the host of this podcast, lifestyle and wellness coach, hybrid athlete, and philosopher. Today, I am the host of this podcast, and I got a lovely guest here. Her name is Megan Brackett. Megan and I went to college together at VCU, and she is a digital marketer as well too. And she is the owner of Yoga Brain. And I'm excited to have her here because she aligns a lot with our philosophy here at the Flow In, Flow Out podcast and the Peak Performance Academy, but just elevating and helping each other grow personally and professionally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read Megan's uh, bio. I call her Megan because I asked her, I was like, do you want to be called Meg or Megan? She said Megan. And likewise, I want to be called Samnang because we do have some of our listeners from VCU. And at VCU, I went by Sam a lot. But after doing a lot of personal development work, I was like, Samnang is my name and it's very unique. So I could go a little bit into that story as well to share it. So Megan is the founder of the creative guide of Yoga Brain, a unique creative studio that designs conscious branding for big-hearted wellness leaders. Yoga Brain's approach is not just about design, but it's about aligning with the forces of the universe. Some of that woo-woo. Within Yoga Brain, she merges right and left brain thinking, combining extensive expertise in business and communication with over 17 years of practice on a yoga mat. When collaborating with clients, she incorporates astrology, numerology, and moon cycles. Meg also teaches yoga and meditation virtually and in person. Meg was introduced to the yoga in her teens and has been exploring various yoga styles and teachers worldwide ever since. She believes the best way to connect with the present moment is through practice and strives to incorporate a mindful and positive attitude in all aspects of life. Awesome. Welcome to the show. I hope I did a good job.
Thank
Introduce
you.
yourself. Fill me in for anything else. Let me do something. There you go. Did you hear that?
Yeah. No, you did great. I think it's still a growth moment for me to listen to other people talk about me.
I gotta stop this.
Okay. What happened?
Did I turn off the clapping? I had some clapping. I turned it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear it. I don't. Maybe it went on. Maybe it didn't.
Okay. Maybe it should record. I'm still learning this on the fly too. I had some audience people clapping. But yeah, that was the formal introduction. It's real formal in the beginning, and then it's just whatever, flow in. Please fill in whatever you have left or that I missed, and then we're just gonna continue the conversation. That's really what the show is about, is just bringing about similar mindset things and just sharing our knowledge and our wisdom. And I'm excited to have you here because we have a shared audience, community members through LinkedIn and Facebook and probably Instagram. So welcome.
Yes, thank you. No, that was great. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for your time. I should probably have in the bio that I'm a mother. I have a 8-year-old son who specifically said that he wants me to talk about him on the podcast. So sure. Milo, this is your moment. But obviously I have many other aspects of my life that I work on and care about, and he's number one, but there are many number twos.
Family is definitely important. We could always talk about family as well too, because that's a big part of work now. I think there's a big separation of family, work, life, spiritual and personal practice and stuff. But I think as we get into more remote different demands in life and having the opportunities to go remote, working from home and everything, there's still a need and understanding, I think, for that. I think we're in the coaching business where we help people navigate that as well too. So that's why I think there's a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about your background. And I didn't realize you 17 years of practicing on a yoga. I've been bodybuilding for 24 years, not to compare anything, but it's a long time to have a practice, and the discipline definitely carries over into a lot of areas. I recently started doing yoga too, maybe a little bit my own personal yoga. But I think the 17 years, did you do that all the way through college too, or?
So my first class, I was at UVA actually when I was in high school. So I went to just their like standard community class,
Yeah.
loved it. In college, I worked out at Gold's Gym. I did Gold's Gym yoga for years and years and years. I
Which
like,
one? The one at Willowlawn?
yep.
Yes, I worked out there too.
Yeah. And then in Arlington, I was practicing at Gold's Gym. So I say that like because there's sort of like this hierarchy of like fitness and like where you should go and how much you should invest. And if you're really a yogi, you go to like a real yoga studio.
Right.
That I stand for Gold's Gym yoga. I think it's a great way to practice and
Yeah.
really got me into it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mean that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like you have your company is called the Yoga Brain. So you kind of incorporated your personal passion into something that is now your career. And likewise, in what I've done, it's not bodybuilding that I'm, kind of like teaching and coaching, but it's just kind of like the aspect of being disciplined around something that helps kind of like better other areas of your life.
Yeah.
Um, and also kind of like finding yourself as well too. I think before the show, we spent a few minutes getting to know our guests, and Meg talked a little bit about her college years. College years, I think for me was a very what's the word, where like I was a lot of impressions, a lot of like memories were made to kind of set me up.
Formidable.
Yeah, formidable, right?
Yeah. Those are really
So
good ones.
and I remember we talking, and you are an art student, and
Mm-hmm.
art and creativity, and VCU had something, a very creative school. And maybe we just chat a little bit about how you incorporated yoga and then your artistic side and marketing side together to create this yoga brain here. I mean, because that takes a lot of creativity. It doesn't just, I mean, you created it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like that is one of the things I really had to work through is, essentially like I failed out of art school and I really had these systems tell me like I
Yeah.
wasn't qualified to be um a an artist in a way that would make money and have credibility, and I wasn't going to be a painter, I wasn't a sculptor, those sorts of things. But the longer I've learned and the more I've learned about the creative process,
Mm-hmm.
the more I'm like, first of all, everyone has a creative piece to them. It's a
Right.
very it's nourished in childhood, and then there are like things along the way that tell people what they are and what they aren't. And so a lot of that was kind of saying, okay, I didn't finish my degree in art at
Mm-hmm.
VCU, but I did want to pick something that was a creative side to business.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of like the practical way to do it. But I really think, I mean, a really good marketer is going to be a great writer. A really good marketer is going to understand that their brain needs a break. Their brain needs to be outside. Their brain needs to be interacting with people. Your creative process can't just be sitting at a computer all day. That won't,
Yeah.
that you need to move your body. You need to be outside. You need to be talking to other people. Like that is all sort of part of my
Part of the
job, I
process.
consider. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's interesting. Yes,
yeah.
I love that you talked about that, because my job now is what I do with this creative aspect. It doesn't look like a regular 9 to 5. It's definitely like intense for a couple hours, and then there's a lot of like rest and recovery in the back
Mm-hmm.
end of like meditating, or just like, I mean, I tell people all the time, like I do like power naps. I love my power naps, where I would intentionally like go in there and then try to solve problems while I'm sleeping. And it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a weird technique. I think it's called yoga nidra.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a word.
Yeah. So yeah. I tell people that, and then but it's just being validated sometimes. But then I learned that uh, Albert Einstein took a lot of naps, and I was like, all right, okay. I mean,
Yes. I love me a good nap. I get really into in the summertime I'll lay in my hammock and I listen to a hypnosis meditation, and I'll
hmm
nap as 30 minutes, but as frequently as possible.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, like if you know how to do it properly and with like a good intention, and I mean, there's some science to it. There's a gentleman that I listen to today. His name is Andrew Huberman, and he
Mm,
talks about pot or like meditating, and then yoga needs your nap, and then just having other people just say, hey, like what you believe in or what you're doing is right. Because I've always been a very intuitive person. I've always been like, okay, let me go to the weights, lift weights, and I built my physical body by just listening and looking at myself and just kind of developing myself
mhm,
through that aspect, and then just talking to other people and you'd be like, oh, okay, there's some science, there's some truth to what I've been intuitively listening to. So your yoga experience and how you brought that into your career. So you switched over to marketing, right? Is
mhm.
that correct? Okay. And
I
now
did. I did.
I
And
want to
so,
ask you, when you say
yeah.
you failed out of art school, what does that mean? Like, did you just get bad grades? I got bad grades.
Yeah, I got bad grades. And I mean, I started school when I was 17. I was like a young
Yeah,
college
I was the
student.
same. I went to
Yeah.
school at 17, and there was a lot of responsibility, a lot of like distractions at college and stuff. So I
Yeah, it was
understand.
all distraction. It was so fun, and I'm really grateful for my time at VCU, but like that wasn't necessarily, I wasn't living in alignment. I sort of just went with what everybody else wanted to do. There was a
Right,
big
right.
party culture that um now terrifies me as a mother. I'm like, oh, I hope there's some cultural shifts on campus before my son goes to college. But we joke that he's going to live, or I'm going to live in his basement for the rest of my life anyway. So I'll be keeping my eye on him. But it was, yeah, I mean, I was a freshman. I don't think I was working my freshman year. Um, and I just kind of like played, which I think, is also okay to do when you've been in school since you're 5 years old. I
Right.
think gap years are amazing. And I wish that more parents would encourage their children to do that. I wish like society didn't only say your path to success has to be a 4-year college, like right away. Um, but I played and that showed, and I spent a lot of money. I didn't do well in school. And my parents were basically like,
Yeah.
you have to get a job and you have to be serious about this. And like, you're going to have one more semester. And if you don't figure this out, then you're going to have to leave school.
Right.
And I liked it enough. I liked the social aspect enough that was able to encourage me to get better grades. I was never like a straight A student. But I passed and graduated in 5 years. And was lucky enough to pick like business marketing, and
Right. That's
I
a good
was
major.
able, yeah,
Business
it's
marketing, I would
mhm.
say, would be the most relevant. I mean, because I'm a digital marketer as well too. I study business as
Yeah.
well too. But that's interesting. Your parents were like, "Let's, she got to figure this shit out," and then you're like,
Hmm.
"All right." Well, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good choice. I think the mix between art and marketing is it's good. I don't think VCU was known for like a business school. I think I had a point where in my life too, VCU was definitely a lot of distractions, but good at a time where like you could learn. I learned a lot from a lot of different people because I went. I was very good at art actually. I got the possibility of being an artist.
Mm.
But then at a point I was like, I think business was the most not, I wouldn't say lucrative, but the best
Practical.
yeah, practical
Yeah.
and most
It's a very
opportunities.
practical. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
because it generally it touches everything, and then there was a book I read by Tony Robbins, Unlimited Power, and that was almost the point where I was like, that was it, personal development. I didn't know what it was, but I kind of wanted to be like that guy. And then I started studying business, and then getting into that space. And like I said, VC wasn't known for like business. I don't think I was a great student at all. I was terrible. I got bad grades, but I went to school. I put a lot of effort in,
Yeah.
and I did grind it out. I got out of there 4.5 years. And
Nice. So you beat me.
to be honest, when I look back and everybody and ask everybody, is like a lot of people took a lot longer. I was like, okay, I guess I was on I thought I was late because I did 4.5 because I really wanted to get out there at 4. But
Yeah.
once I got out of school, it was just kind of like a figuring out process.
Yeah.
after that, of just like where I'm at now, you know. Tell me a little bit about the figuring out process after, right? That's where the meat is.
Yeah, I think we could spend the next like 2 hours just talking about the figuring out process.
Yeah, give us the
So
rundown.
yeah, I think I'm still figuring it out. And I think like anybody
You know,
who
the name of this podcast is figure the original name of it was figure the fuck out.
I did not
But
know
we,
that.
yeah, then we changed it to flow in flow out because I told my co-host Danny, who's a digital marketer as well
Yeah.
too. I was like, I don't think we should use the F word in our marketing. I think
Well, yeah, I mean, you can do whatever you want, which is also a really fun part of running your business.
yeah. But it
But
is figure it out. It's like figure it out, right? We're figuring it
yeah,
out together. And
yeah.
yes, I want to hear that. What you're
I
figuring out.
mean, yeah, I think I'm still figuring it out. And I think sort of the trap of, I don't know if it's like American culture or just being a human, but to think like there's an end and there's like
Mm-hmm.
a final stage of
Yeah.
even feeling like an expert in anything. I'm try to keep a very curious mindset around like anything that I'm learning, anybody that I'm working with. Anytime I think like I've got it, like it's probably
Yeah. It's a
it's
sign that
probably
you need
time
to
to
chill.
pump the brakes. Yeah. So I try to not really figure things out as much as I can. And I try to, what I've been working on for, I don't know, probably the past 4 years is being okay with what is happening in my life and where I am in my life without feeling like I need a timeline. So
Mm-hmm.
like both of us, we didn't finish college in 4 years. That has literally never mattered.
Yeah.
No one
Or
has
your
ever
GPA.
asked me. No one's asked me my GPA. No one's ever asked me how long did it take you to finish college? Like, who cares? And what was I was going to say something else about that. Yeah. So like the figuring out piece is,
Yes.
I can give an example. I try to do this now when I'm driving. And like I live in DC, I have to drive all over the city. It's awful, but it teaches
Yes,
me
I
a
know
lot
DC.
about, yes, it teaches me a lot about like if I'm in traffic or if I feel like I'm in a rush or if I feel like I'm behind, I try to just be like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I don't need to rush. I need to like just be where I am. And that can be a powerful lesson in those small moments, but even in the bigger moments where I feel like my business should be doing this, my relationship should be doing this, my parenting, you know, my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my son, all of these pieces where I start to think like it should be different. I try to really avoid that thought
Yeah.
and well, not avoid it, but I try to be curious about that thought. And it's like, no, like it has
It's okay.
all, yeah, this has all led me to where I am. And I could have never planned any of this if I tried to figure it out 5 years ago.
Yeah. I think I really like that. And I would say what you said was it's okay to just be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just be. And I've struggled with that a lot too, especially like with my career change and my life change. It's just be like, I think this is for me. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast started. We're in such a transition where we're investing heavily in ourselves in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
growth,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't put a exact thing that you need to become, like or whatever it is. It's like I can't say what I'm gonna be because if I
Mm-hmm.
did, it causes me more pain. That was
Mm-hmm.
what was causing me pain. It was just, you know what, this is the stage of my life where I'm gonna invest in myself. I do have to do transition, lots of like changes and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
just be okay with it. And I think that's a strong message for a lot of people that might be struggling if there's a transition. I mean, we always have transitions,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're a parent, if you're changing careers, going from student to workplace, or it's always a process of figuring out, and the process of like figuring out, and also just being like the universe is working, it's working, right? And really trusting that. And I
Yeah.
had to really trust that process. I didn't always trust that process, but every time I done more personal development work or just something a little bit more challenging to push me, it just becomes more clear that I'm on the right path, even though it's hard. Like,
Yeah. I mean, and there is no, like, you can resist it. You don't, I mean, there's moments in my life where I definitely haven't trusted it, and like, it's kind of going to happen anyway. And so
yeah,
like you can resist it, and it's going to be uncomfortable. There's never been a growth period in my life that has been like fun or happy or exciting or any of the things that like you would think on Instagram, oh, look at all this great stuff that's happening. That hasn't been my experience. But when you look back, like when I look back on the process, then I'm kind of giving this faith and reminders that like, wow, I thought I was going to have this, and I thought I was going to be in this area, or I thought my career would look like this, and now it's in a totally different space. And it's always worked out better than like my human mind could have planned for it anyway. Like anytime I'm trying to force something, anytime I'm like very attached to timeline, outcome, income, any of those pieces, any numbers, any outside things, if I'm very attached to that, then it does cause pain and suffering. And the more
yeah,
I can say, hey, very open to what's ever going to happen here, and not in like a I'm being lazy way, but in a very much like I'm going to let this unfold, and
yeah,
it will not unfold the way that I think it should, because it will almost always be better.
yeah. I think that's good. Sometimes my good friend Dean, I had him on the podcast. He said something that's really like that helped me. It says the like when you're going on this path of unknown, he says the path will reveal itself.
Yeah.
And when it does reveal itself, it actually becomes better. But in the process of you like creating it and revealing it and stuff, it's ugly. It's ugly, it's painful.
Yeah.
And what you said about like struggling and stuff, it's like the mindset. And I want to like ask you, because you live in DC, which is like hustle bustle. I used to work in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got this yoga side where it's like
Yeah.
detachment, which is like, of course, it's very challenging, especially in this modern world, trying to find a little bit more peace and
Yeah.
trying to resolve some of this pain that we might be suffering and stuff. It's like, how does that happen? Or I mean, what are those challenges? Because I could talk about my challenges of like, hey, like, yes, even though I have the spiritual side of like detachment from things, I still have to provide. I still have to get work done. I still have to make it into appointments, to coaching calls. I have to put this stuff together, and there's that balance. Talk. I think because is it your practice that kind of helps with all that?
Um, yeah, it does. I mean, I think I've done a lot of work on just detaching my worth from my work.
Yes,
And
detaching work.
especially in DC, that is very challenging. And I actually really love that I get to teach yoga to people in DC, because I'm like, oh, this is so good for you. Like, even if you're just off your phone for an hour, like I promise you that will have such a big benefit for you for the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of work that I've done is, if you know who the Nat Ministry is, she's a very big activist in rest
Mm-hmm.
and dismantling like white supremacy culture around hustle culture, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so I follow people like her who really have broken it down from like a historical perspective of how toxic this is to like our spirituality, our existence, our, everything. So I really try to follow other activists like in that space. And it's really challenging. I mean, I had a call yesterday around money with two girlfriends of mine. We meet once a month to sort of just talk through very, very existential things. And they're my favorite phone call of the month. But we were talking about like when we receive money from sources outside of work. So say it's investment, say it's family, say it's, a tax refund, whatever. And like that feeling of guilt around receiving abundance when it didn't come from like hustle and grind and really hard work.
Guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I'm really working on because my career income is very different than it was when I was working a 9 to 5. I had a very stable job, insurance was paid for, I had my 401k growing, everything was very, very stable, and the job was fine. Like it wasn't one of those super toxic jobs that I was like dying to get out of, or I felt like stifled. Like I had pretty supportive leaders.
You were kind of doing what you were doing in the corporate world, what you're doing now, right? You were creating websites. So it was pretty much the same thing. Right?
It was nonprofit fundraising. So it was very similar. It was marketing, but instead of for products, it was marketing for donations.
Okay.
So it was similar, but I just like wanted more time freedom. I wanted to be with my son when he was done with school, and during the summers, I wanted to be able to go and travel for 6 weeks like I'm doing this summer. I wanted location freedom. I wanted time freedom.
Yeah.
I don't work well in an office. I don't work well sitting down all day. I like to have my window open. I like to have a candle going, like stupid things I couldn't do in an office. I'm like, but I want to work like that.
Because you're creative. Creative folks need like different stuff to like inspire themselves. Like I like going outside, like reading and like writing and drawing. And like the break away from the work gets that creative stuff flowing. And I really like I as a like somebody that likes being creative and stuff, I enjoy that time away. And that's one thing that I've been struggling with is that guilt of like, I think you were talking about money, feeling like when you receive money, that's guilt, right? Receiving that. I've heard people say that. For me, it's like money is like, for me, it's like, okay, when I get money, it's like, okay, let me go do more of this shit that I do. So that's kind of like how I kind of get rid of the guilt, right? It's the money doesn't really stay anywhere. And that's just kind of my mindset too. I did a lot of work around money, and my ideas around it is like, I would get money and try to hold on to it. But I was like, the purpose of money is to use it in whatever aspects it is. And that has helped me with getting my guilt away. But the guilt that I've been feeling is, before I wouldn't use the word, like, just like you shared this experience of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and then you got the hour break or whatever and stuff. But the rest of the hours you're like working. Like, yes, you're working, but you're also doing like the same thing over and over. Like I used to work at an apartment community, and that was it, same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
But was I really growing? I was just doing the same thing over and over and over. But now as I transition to like remote coaching and owning on my own business and stuff, it's like there's almost every day it's a learning and growth, and then there's a phase where like I have to step away. I don't know, I'm sure everybody has a different name for it, but it's like the work mode and then the deload phase where you have to kind of clear everything out and organize everything. I spend like a few hours like organizing things in my head before I actually go back to work and get creative and stuff. And that aspect, I think for creative people, I think it's super important, but I also feel very guilty when I'm doing that because I've done that prior to like when I was married and stuff, and people would be like pissed at me.
It's like, I like to just say like work hard, rest hard. And it's not, you can also play, of course. But for me, what's actually helped me with that piece where I feel less guilt around the rest, is understanding like the seasons and cycles in nature.
That's cool.
Our summer is this very like hustle culture is like very summer, right? So everything is bright. We have longer daytime. The output can be a lot more. It's very fiery. It's hot. It's like this output. And then naturally that doesn't last forever in most areas. I mean, even in South America, there's like dry season and rainy season. So during the fall, you start to rest a little bit more. Daylight gets less. It gets colder. You're not supposed to be in summer. And then in winter, like everything dies. It's very much of a rest season. And then spring, you start to plant the seed, and then things start to bloom again in the summer. And it doesn't mean that like for 3 months out of the year you have to rest.
Thank you guys for watching the Flow In, Flow Out podcast. So I want to take a moment and take a break from the show and thank you for being a part of our community. So I'm the head coach at Peak Performance Academy, and I want to talk about how you guys could support the channel and how we could support you as well too. So if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and share it with your thoughts. Leave a review with some feedback and let us know what you enjoy about the show. Your review helps the algorithm and gets our message out to more people. So here's how we could support you guys in your personal growth. So we have a coaching community called Peak Performance Academy, where I'm the head coach. We offer live coaching calls and lifestyle packages as well too. So if you need additional support in these areas of your life, please book a discovery call with us. We look forward to hearing from you and look forward to working with you. And also, if you are a fan of the Flow In, Flow Out podcast and you resonate with the message, and if you have an inspiring story to share, anything that you want to get out there that's going to help elevate the collective vibrations, we welcome you. Just let me know, send me an email, send me a comment, and then we'll get you scheduled on to the show. So we look forward to having you, and we love and appreciate all the support that have you been giving to our the Flow In, Flow Out podcast and the Peak Performance Academy community.
But what it means is, you know, maybe even if you look at those seasons in a 24-hour cycle, like that rest season is what makes that summer season so beautiful and so bright and so abundant. And you cannot have one without the other.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
You use a lot of you were just kind of explaining seasons and cycles, and I understand that too, because as athletes and like people that train physically and stuff, you can't, like, I could always relate it to other things, you know, as athletes, you know, you have 3 months of on that you're going intense, but you can't go 3 months on intense for the whole year. You might injure yourself, you might break yourself off a little bit.
And 3 months is the same as like the summer.
A season
and
is a season.
Spring. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We call it seasons, you know. I mean, sports are played in seasons. And sometimes I'm like, I gotta be in season all year long. And that's the big struggle sometimes. Well, yes, rest is important, but I also like really like pushing myself, which, you know, that's for me, I really like that. But you use a lot of astrology, numerology, and cycles in your coaching. Yeah. That's something that I actually am kind of learning. I've stepped into kind of the spiritual side more. I've been studying spirituality for a long time, you know, but not really. I haven't made that big revelation of like, hey, this is what I got to do and this is my life and everything. In college, I've always been like I love Buddhist like philosophy. My dad's Buddhist. Like we went to the temple and everything. And in college, I studied this elective class. It was Asian art history, and I fucking loved that class. It was beautiful. The drawings and like the meaning behind all the sculptures and everything, and the mystic and everything. So that was kind of like something that I guess it was almost kind of like my spiritual path, where around 30, that's when I started doing more meditation. That's when I didn't start doing yoga until maybe like 2 years ago. But I started with meditation, and then
meditation is yoga, by the way.
Is it? That's what I was like, okay.
It is a very important branch of yoga.
Yeah, a little bit about like Cambodian history. Cambodia is they were the Angkorian temple, or the heights when it was like the empire. It was a mix of Hinduism and Buddhism. So they're interrelated. When I started studying and started practicing myself, I was like, oh, they're interrelated. And then when I started doing meditation, I was like, oh, Okay, it's cool that you said the same thing. So I'm not separating. I thought it was meditation and yoga was something different, but it is
No,
like
I
the same
mean,
thing, right?
yeah, the whole point is like, I always tell when I'm teaching, I'm like, bring your mind to where your body is. Like, all we're doing
Right.
is everything's going to be in one place for this next hour. We're going to practice how to do that. That
Okay.
way, hopefully, when you're driving, when you're at work, when you're interacting with your child, you can have your mind and body in the same place where you're not off in
Okay.
thought, you're not stressed about the past, you're not stressed about the future. Your mind can be in the room with your body.
Right.
So you can do that through movement, and you can do that through sitting meditation. Both are yoga.
So I mean that's interesting because I've been bodybuilding longer and lifting weights longer than I've been meditating and doing yoga
Yeah.
since probably 14. The ninth grade of high school, I lifted weights and everything. But for me, it was almost a form of like I'm present. Like nobody could tell me anything while I'm in the gym. Text messages came through. I'm just gonna finish this workout, and it was just like mindful. But it was also like I teach a lot in my practice and my coaching is like the mind muscle body connection. It's like to build a muscle, you actually have to put your mind where that physical part is. Like if you wanted to enhance your chest, my chest is really weak, and I always think about when I'm sleeping or meditating or training. It's like I want this area to get really big, or like my back or a specific area. It's almost the same thing as yoga, right? And I don't think people talk about like bodybuild. I started talking more about the mind muscle body connection that way. So I guess it's almost similar in the form of like yoga too, right?
Yeah. The way we would probably teach it in yoga is just like your chest isn't really weak. Your chest is what it is. And you can love and accept your chest.
I can't. I gotta go into the gym and just crush myself. That's how
But
I go
I
into the gym.
wonder, I mean, you could play with for a week, just sending your body like love and acceptance. And how would that feel?
You know what? That
literally
might actually
in
be a
your
good.
heart.
That actually might be because every time I look at my chest, I'm like, God, it's so fucking small, and I hate it. And I go into the gym and I just try to smash it, and I get a good workout, but it stays small.
That's like, I mean, you can do that. I just like, is it all that joyful for you to be that way with
kind of. I have that monk side and I have that warrior side, so there's a balance. So I have to go into the gym and like crush it. It's like a guy thing. That's for me. It's like I love bodybuilding so much. Like I actually in college I stopped maybe for like a year or 2 year, but I think my sophomore year or junior year when I started doing it, I started getting so much energy and so much like confidence in myself. That's where it was like that's where I think it really like when you have a practice to yourself, I think that's where all the personal development, all the growth and like the direction starts to point you in the right direction. Even if you don't know the direction. I didn't know that bodybuilding was going to take me this far,
For sure. I mean, anytime it's like impossible to work only on your body. Like that's impossible. You can start. I mean, I started like my health journey to quit smoking and to lose weight. And, now those are two things like I don't weigh myself. I really try to have like a neutral or loving attitude and view of my body. I mean, especially having a child, like my body is amazing and it has done the coolest thing possible. It grew a human. So there's much more of like a loving acceptance of my body as much as I can. I will say aging has kind of thrown a little fun patriarchy wrench into like,
oh yeah,
how am I going to feel about wrinkles? How am I feeling about gray hair? Not good is the answer to those things. And so like, I think that's my next phase is like, how am I going to love my body through aging? But I think it's interesting for you specifically with your chest. I mean, that's your heart chakra. Like that is a very strong energetic point in your body. So you can keep crushing it at the gym. And I would encourage you to like explore that as a spiritual area of your body, not a physical area.
I actually have. I've been doing like really studying like the heart and like the heart coherence and the heart when you talk about the heart chakra, like the heart like exhibits like electromagnetic field and everything. And then
Yeah.
when you say you start to like love yourself and like, if I had a bigger, so I also practice martial arts too.
Yeah.
If I had a bigger chest, I wouldn't be able to block like this. If I had a big chest, I would be like most guys that have big chests, they can't like squeeze there. So I was like, maybe I just like love myself today.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you just said. So
Yeah.
it's like because it's always like you go to the gym and you're like, and no matter like what you like do, you're not ever completely happy with any part of yourself. Like even if you're building a business and stuff, there's always some part where you're like, I want to make that better, right? Versus somebody outside will be like, oh, you have a great physique and stuff, but you still struggle with this kind of stuff like every day of just like accepting yourself, even when we're growing and stuff. But yeah, I want to take a moment and pull up your website because you are a website designer. Is this your website? Yes, work with Meg. And if you're sharing this with your audience, my original co-host, his name is Danny Merowinski. He's a digital marketer as well too. So he builds websites, and he was able to get me some pointers and get all this stuff up and running. But yeah, tell a little bit about your services or your experiences. I know you're doing stuff in where is it? In
Brazil.
Brazil, which is cool. Talk about that.
So I have really let myself this year kind of just follow any strings, any like inklings of interest that I have. So this year, in addition to marketing, coaching, and business coaching, I am teaching yoga. So I teach on Sundays in DuPont Circle at 6:15. It's a restorative yoga and meditation class. It's really chill. We we rest, we lay on the floor, we listen to really calm music, and it's the best. I love teaching it. I think people enjoy coming. So that's at Toolbox in DuPont. With that, I'm leading a retreat, a yoga and wellness retreat in Brazil in January.
Cool. Is that out here? Is that on your website?
It's at the very top, that bar, right, the 2025. There. Yeah.
All right.
This is with my dear friend Jessica. Her and I are taking a group of people down to Brazil intentionally over inauguration weekend so we can all get out of DC and all go unplug for the week.
Yeah.
So that'll be a week in Brazil. And then at the retreat, we're staying at a coffee farm. So I've also partnered with my partner to bring our coffee from Brazil to the States. So we launched a coffee brand.
That's cool. You just did it? Like you were just like,
yeah, we started. We just are figuring it out. This is like that. I didn't know much about coffee before we started, and there's so much to learn.
I'm telling you, that's a real thing. Figure the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? It's like some of the coolest stuff does happen when you just do that. And like when I saw you talking about like we were talking about coffee earlier. Yeah. I don't know much about coffee. And I'm sure there's a whole world to coffee, how it gets sourced, how it gets brought over here. And I've seen a whole bunch of people into it and everything. So is this kind of like a new endeavor or something that you always, or you just a coffee drinker before?
So I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I drove down to the beach. So I was by myself for 5 hours. My thoughts are really interesting when I'm alone for that long. And both of my grandmothers were very big coffee drinkers. The joke in our family is that my mama Pat, my grandmother on my dad's side, would put half milk, half coffee in a bottle for us. So I've been drinking coffee my whole life. And I felt like this like super strong ancestral connection to coffee through my grandmothers. So it's been really nice to kind of just learn, the industry. I got to tour 4 coffee farms while I was in Brazil, 2 which are run by women. And that's a whole, world that I'm excited to explore is women in coffee. There's a whole movement for that. And yeah, there's my coffee post. See, I'm drinking coffee there.
This one right there?
The one where it's like me holding a strawberry cup.
There you go. Meg.
So we brought our coffee over. We got it roasted at Chesapeake Coffee in Maryland, and we are selling coffee. So that's been
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Keep me updated about it. I like coffee. I don't know much about coffee. I'm not like, I'm one of those person that just drinks the coffee for the caffeine, but I'm sure there's stuff behind it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell difference between 7-Eleven coffee and like Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, I have my
Yeah.
preferences and stuff. But yeah, I'm sure, and there's a ton of like health benefits and stuff to that
Yes.
as well
Yeah.
too.
There can be. Of course, like I do, my lemon water in the morning, I eat, and then I have my coffee. It's more of like a ritual piece for me. It's much less about consuming caffeine.
Yeah.
I mean, when I travel, I drink a lot more coffee, but in my day to day, it is just part of my like morning ritual to sit on my back porch with the sounds of the birds and have my coffee. And that
All
is
right.
like
Let's talk
what I
about
love.
this. I think, I mean, yes, being a business owner, an entrepreneur, and being self-employed, there's some stuff that kind of sucks, but then there's also some really cool stuff where like you could actually have like your own routine and
Yeah.
make your own schedule and everything. So, what is Meg Brackett's Mrs. Yoga Brain's morning routine? Had to get her
Well,
primed and ready for her work day.
yeah. So it's different every day. And
Yeah.
I used to be a stickler of like, especially when I worked 9 to 5, I was way more disciplined with like all of my health and wellness. But now that I have more space in my day, it's a lot more just restful. My whole day is more restful. But yeah, I wake up. I try not to check anything until I'm out of the bed. And I have lemon water and I go on a walk. I try to come back and journal. Every couple of days I'll journal.
Yeah.
And then I have my breakfast and sit on the porch with coffee. And that takes like 2 hours. So that is sort of like my very slow morning that I love. And in the summer, I lay in the hammock more. In the winter, I love taking Epsom salt baths.
That helps you get
And
in a creative mode, right?
it, for me, just like cleans my energy. So I
Yeah.
can be having the most stressful day. If I sit in salt water, like I feel like a totally new woman.
Interesting. So something new that I did. So because I have a fair amount of recovery, I'm my routine has it. There's thought behind it, but it's not like on a per day basis anymore. It's more like weeks and months and different cycles and stuff. But one thing I've been focusing a lot on is more recovery, and I've been doing a lot of like sauna.
Mm-hmm.
And there
I
was
love the sauna. Yes, I try to
yeah.
do sauna once a week. I should have said that. Yeah, I love sauna.
Yes. But then I went to this one, it was a One Life in Martinsburg, but they had like salt, like the sea salt, or is it the Himalayan salt in there?
Himalayan salt. Yes, I
Yes,
love
yes,
salt
yes.
caves. Yes, they're so
And
good.
this was the first time I went in one, and I was like, oh, this like it feels different. It feels like, I don't know, it just cleansed me. Like
Yeah.
I said, like, it feels very cleansing and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
very like um it felt really good. And I always try to like experiment. That I always leave room for experimentation. I think that's where, if I get in towards like, sometimes my meditation practice just like explodes. I'm all meditation. Sometimes my
Mm-hmm.
journaling practice is just flourishing, and I just journal and I
Mm-hmm.
stop. So I always had to think about like keeping it balanced,
Mm-hmm.
where I need a little bit of this and that. But sometimes when something is working like really well, like I've been bodybuilding for a long time, and I just got really like burned out in bodybuilding. So I'm just practicing some martial arts and stuff.
Yeah.
So that has really like helped me. And I just had to be like, we're just kind of like flowing with it, right? Not
Yes.
so much of like, I have to do this. But in that process
Yeah.
of flowing with it, the growth is more, I would say, exponential. Like my meditation practice has, it blew up. My
Mm-hmm.
journaling practice has blew up. But not, maybe I might not be reading as many books or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's those times where like you just have to assess that, hey, if you're improving in these areas and stuff, I think, kind of move with that direction. And I've been more of that recently, where like and it's a struggle sometimes too, because I have to have schedule because I have
Mm-hmm.
clients, I have,
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
wife, my family
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But that's kind of like the struggle. But
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable for me to like not have a set daily schedule. And it
yeah,
was I very much had to like undo that from my corporate life of like, okay, I need to start every day at 9 o'clock. In my first hour, I need to check email, I need to respond to clients. Like I
yeah,
don't that just like does not I don't work as well. Like I just my output is not as great and I'm just not as happy. So I've really tried to just like let each day kind of be what it needs to be.
yeah,
I know that like every day I need to walk, I need to be outside, I need to drink water. And the screens piece is like something that it probably needs to be dialed back way back.
yeah,
So after the summer, my fall routine will be a little more disciplined. But it's summer,
yeah.
like you're supposed to stay up late and have fun and eat ice
It's
cream.
true. Yes, yes. Let me I think you gotta head out. We
Yes.
got like 5 minutes, but I want to ask one question before we head
Yes.
out and just inspire our listeners here.
Okay.
Because I listened to a podcast. What was the one that you just did? I can't remember the name. That you did with your coach. You was a business
With
coach.
Catherine
Yes, yes.
Andrews
I
or
listened to.
yeah, with Catherine.
Yeah, because you kind of went through like a metamorphic coaching program, or
Mm-hmm.
like identity shifting. Because I do a
Uh-huh.
lot of, I went through like an identity shifting type of coaching to kind of get
Yeah.
where I am now, and taking that step, of course, when you're, to like to go into like self improvement, personal development, and like get a coach and everything.
Yeah.
For anybody that's like listening out there and just want something new, and tell us a little bit about that experience where like you took that leap and then you went and I think went full time into your business and everything.
Yeah.
Where was the shift in mindset that happened? And for anybody that might be like thinking about something like this.
Yeah. So I always like to preface this by saying like I had a dual income. So I was with my ex at the time. I also had saved a lot of money. This was over the pandemic when we had gotten the like $2,000 or whatever from the government. I was spending very little money because it was the pandemic and like no one was doing anything. So I had a decent amount of personal savings. I had support from family. I had access to like generational wealth and safety. So it will be different for everybody depending on those circumstances. But I was basically able to say, okay, I have this much money in savings. I had 2 or 3 clients at the time. And when I had decided to go full time, like 2 more came to work with me. So I had enough for the next 6 months where I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, even if I don't get any more clients, I have enough in savings to cover me to make it through these next 6 months. Um, and that created enough money, safety, and security for me to be able to do something like that. It was still very terrifying. My son was like 4 years old at the time. We still
Yeah.
very much needed to make money. But I had enough personal savings, generational savings, and like partnership to be able to make a leap like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I've been very lucky to work with amazing women. Every time I've hired a coach, it has helped me a lot. Like any
Yeah.
investment I've ever made in myself with coaching has paid off. We were just talking about this before we got on. Like I'm kind of in that cycle where I'm going to invest in my business again. And there might be some shifts and changes with what I'm offering. And I can do that feeling very comfortable with it because in the past when I've invested, it's quote unquote worked. Like I've either felt very
Yeah.
supported, I've made more money, whatever. But yeah, that was the reason I was able to do it. And I will say, when I had started my business, I had already gone part-time at my work. So I was making 30% less than I was when I was full-time. So
Oh, it was a good transition.
I
Yeah.
had gone full-time, part-time, which was 30 hours, and then into my business. So I made less money. I mean, I just made less money. And that was something that I've done a lot of work around is like success equaling money, really trying to eliminate that from my life.
Yeah.
It's more like success is picking up my kid from school, being able to go on field trips with him, being able to have my 2-hour slow mornings. Like that to me is how I want to live right now.
Yeah.
Maybe when he's 16 and 17 and doesn't want anything to do with me, I'll want to work more and have a more, whatever financially lucrative career. But today I'm highly uninterested in working like that.
No, I appreciate you sharing. It's a different lifestyle, and the transition is definitely different for everyone. And I think it's a message. It's a transition that you could do, and a few people do it different. I mean, everybody does it different way, but you're going towards something, towards some direction.
Yeah.
When and it's still as it is. It's still scary. You're still going on your own and everything, and having coaches. I definitely I'm a big person on coaches. I've studied Tony Robbins. He's been my pseudo or coach that I've never met in person, but I've been connected with him so many ways of the people that I listen to that are connected with him too. So he's kind of like my coach, and I went through a lot of investments and coaching it or mentoring and investing in myself too. And I think the biggest thing, I think the big takeaway at the end of this message, and we'll wrap up because your aunt's visiting you. Is that
she's here? I gotta go let her
in. Sorry, I'm going one more message. So it's to investing in yourself with coaches. Coaches, I think really what you gotta say is life's short, right? For me, it's life is short. If I want to do something, I will get there quicker with a coach. There's different ways where I could do something. I bodybuilded for 24 years, but when I worked with coach for 4 seasons, I made so much progress on myself and the learning and understanding of nutrition, even having business coaches and stuff. Having business coaches, hiring business coaches, even going through business school. The difference between that is that you are actively hiring a coach to do that one-on-one, that critical thinking type of work to get you to the goals that you want, whether it be building that business, getting that, the right amount of salary and the right amount of lifestyle. And I do like that point where you said it's the lifestyle that is also the reward. I have to think about that as well too. Something I built this lifestyle that I wanted it. I wanted this lifestyle. Nobody has created this lifestyle. And I talk a lot about work-life balances. There's not really a work-life balance. You kind of just create this life. It's it could be incorporated together. People know me as a coach now, and people know, this is what I do. So there's not really no separation, but it just becomes who I am. And for me, that is more rewarding because I think I make a greater impact on people. And to me, I think it's I get so rewarded when people come onto the podcast and people talk about their personal development and how have I made impacts on their life and the way they think and look at life as well too. So I think this podcast is just kind of help bring some light that yes, we can still work in a way that doesn't kill us or aligns with what we want to do. And for me, talking about alignment and personal development and work and everything, that's the message I want to spread. But we're going to wrap it up. If you want to say anything before we head out, but I appreciate you. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
This was so great. Yes. Thank you so much. And
lovely.
Do all that good heart work for yourself.
Yes. I got to love my chest.
I love your heart.
Right. Tell your aunt I said hi. Tell your son I said hi.
I